Okay, we are recording. Welcome, everyone. Looks like we have some stuff on the agenda. Walmer, you're up first.
Yeah, sure. So just a heads up, Ramya told me I think it was in my last one-on-one with her, that in the dev stage, the plan team is the only one that has only one test automation engineer. Other stages have two test automation engineers, so they are planning hiring a new one. That's the only thing I know, so I'll keep you posted if I get news on that. That was it.
Cool. Kushal, let's go to demos, unless anyone has any other team updates or big picture updates. Nope. Okay, Kushal, you're up.
Yep. So I'll share my screen. So yesterday we finally had drag and drop ready. It is currently in UX review, and hopefully the code review will finish by end of this week. So we'll have it merged into master by next week early. So these are the changes that we have made. If you recall, last time we had 3 tabs here. We had discussions shown by default on page load. Then we had tree and roadmap tabs. So we had 3 tabs at the bottom of the page. So after receiving the feedback when we enabled the feature flag into gitlab.com and the other changes that we did around how the tree looks and the behavior, these are the changes. Like we now call the tree tab epics and issues, and the roadmap is next to it. And the content itself is part of the description area of the epic. So user wouldn't have to switch to a different tab just to see what are the attached issues and epics present for the given epic. And let's go straight to drag and drop now. So as we decided that for 12.3 at least, we do not want a drag and drop to go into between intercategories. That means that if I want to reorder issues, I can reorder it within issues list, but the moment I try to move it on top of epics, you would see that the cursor shows that it is not allowed and things do not move around, which means that it can only be reordered within the issues list. And I can basically leave it anywhere and it gets reordered. Same thing happens with epics. Like I can reorder epics within itself, but the moment I get into the issues territory, it shows the cursor not allowed. If we have one of the epics expanded, the items within the subtree of the epic remain confined to itself. So for example, if I try to reorder this and try to somehow grab it outside the parent, it is not allowed because we do not allow changing parents of individual items using drag and drop, at least for now. So issues can be reordered within its own subtree, but they cannot be moved outside the subtree, or any item from the outside cannot be moved inside the subtree. So that's there. And if you try to move an entire expanded epic, then it would grab everything along, and then you can move that entire thing into the list. So you can see that all the children items move along with it and can be placed anywhere. And the moment you reorder, so let's see how basically reorder is preserved. So all the epics which have children epics in place, I'm just moving it into the middle of the list. And then I just reload the page, and after reload, all the changes are preserved as expected. And yeah, so that is it. What we do plan to do in the next release is basically at least allow intersperse reordering. What that means is that you should be able to move issues into the epics list and can be placed in between 2 epics. So basically interchanging of items will be allowed hopefully in 12.4. But as far as changing parent-child relationships are concerned, that is still something that we are evaluating because it is tricky from both front-end and back-end perspective. And I'll update in the team call as always, depending on what we decide. But this is how the final result is. What we will do moving forward is that once code review is done and this is merged into master, it is still behind feature flag. So we would enable it for GitLab org group. UX changes that we have done, and if there are any significant changes proposed by several team members, then we will come back to the design and see how it can be improved. And if it is received well, then we'll basically remove the feature flag and enable it for everyone. So any questions or suggestions so far?
No, it looks great. We should think through what how long we want to keep it, how long we want to get feedback for on with the feature flag turn on. Ideally, we only need maybe a week or so, and then we can get it out to everyone. But yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, and so one more thing that we want to cover in 12.3, and since Alexis is here, we discussed this at length. So right now, what happens is that if we go to the original proposal of how we wanted to update parent-child relationship using the tree, was that we proposed to basically allow user to grab an item from the list and put it on top of any existing epic, and it would basically move that item inside of an epic, and it would update the parent epic for this given issue. That is not possible now. So the way we are doing it right now is that if you open any issue, you can basically look at the sidebar, and it will have this epic item where you can click on edit, and basically it will show all the eligible epics that you can select and update the parent for this epic. Earlier, it was not that straightforward. I mean, only way you could do that early on is to either copy the URL of the issue itself, visit the epic page, and then paste in the URL there and add it. So it was a multi-step process. Right now, it is very simple as far as issues go. Like you can just select one of the items in the dropdown, it is done. But for epics itself, that is not currently the case. Like there isn't anything in the sidebar where you can update the parent. So only way right now to update the parent for any given epic is to basically first visit the parent epic itself. Like for example, if I want to move this front-end roadmap 2020 inside the accessibility roadmap, then I would have to first open the accessibility roadmap, go back to this particular epic, copy the link address, come back here, click on add an epic, and then paste in the URL, and then click on add. And that is the only way where you can change the parent for any given epic. Obviously, this is not a very good experience. So we want to be able to show a drop-down in some way in the sidebar. So as you can see, only way that we can do currently is by integrating drop-down within the ancestors. So Alexis and I had a brief discussion on how to tackle this by updating the ancestors UI last week, and we have an issue as well. Alexis, can you please paste in that link in the agenda document so that anyone, if they want to chime in, they can. So basically, we would show a drop down along with the ancestors, and we'll also update the ancestors UX itself, because currently it is not very clear what is the parent exactly. So for example, if I open one of the child epics, which has like multiple levels of nesting. So for example, if I go on to this one and click on this particular epic, you would notice that the ancestors will now show two items, but it doesn't really explicitly mention that which particular item from this ancestors list is the immediate parent of this high contrast analysis. We know that it is accessibility roadmap, but it is not very clear to the user. So we want to improve that. And along with that, we also want to show a drop down within the ancestors category so that one can change the parent right from the sidebar instead of going through multiple steps. So that's a small update. And right now we are in the design phase of integrating the dropdown of ancestors. So hopefully we'll be able to cover it in 12.4. So that is all I have. Next point is John. I'll stop the screen sharing here.
Yeah, cheers. Sorry. So it's just to draw awareness to this. Like we have this kind of plan at the minute to kind of try and find areas of the application that we can tighten up from a performance point of view. But it's not necessarily just technical work. It's not necessarily just like N+1 queries, but could be parts of the application and the way it's designed that would allow people to take advantage or be like noisy neighbors. An example might be in service desk, you know, it may be possible to like enumerate email addresses and then spam, I think it's issues with comments. So we want to find these kind of things and close them down. And so that's why I pasted in that link to two epics, one for portfolio management and one for Certify, but they're quite light at the minute. There's not a whole lot in the backlog, so I just want to make people aware of it. And kind of, if you do see anything that you think could be abused, ping me. I'll write it up, and it doesn't mean it's going to get prioritized, like even for the next milestone or anything. It just puts it on our radar, make sure we're aware of it. That's it.
Okay, so I guess next item is mine, and this is something that I just noticed yesterday, I think, about security issues. There is a message from security team about like only focusing on some critical vulnerabilities for this release. I was just wondering if we want to, I don't know, continue working. I know that Sean moved a lot of the security issues into 12.3, so I think there is a week left in this release. So I was wondering if we want to kind of move those issues over to the next release, or just continue to roll with them, and those will probably get into next security release. So yeah, just kind of dragging attention to that.
The ones that he moved up, are those all scheduled to be due in September currently?
I'm sorry, which ones?
The ones he moved into 12.3 from 12.4, are those all scheduled as a due date on September 22nd? You know?
Okay.
Yeah, we should look at what the due dates are on there, because we may have to change. We may have to change them to October if we want to move them out of 12.3.
Yeah, I thought 12.3 is ending on 18th, right?
Yeah, it's technically. I mean, we're having our kickoff call for 12.4 on the 18th. So I think the code freeze is on the 17th, I believe. But just so we're not rushing, I guess, like, if you can get security issues through the review process and verification process by the 17th, then please include them. But for like major features and stuff, if they're not done by this Friday, or at least in like review verification, probably gonna be like go get through those stages within the next few days, and I'm just gonna go ahead and bump them to 12.4, so we're not having to do a bunch of like last minute things for the release posts. But yeah, feature free or code freeze is the 17th, kickoff for 12.4 is the 18th, and feature development should, like, if you want to get it in 12.3, get it in review by the end of this week at the latest.
Yeah, so the security, and John, maybe you're a little bit more familiar with the security releases, but it goes by a little bit of a different schedule than our normal release. So I think we may have a couple extra days to get security fixes in, like beyond the 17th, but that I'm not sure of. Because we have to backfill a bunch of, like, we're not just getting it into the 12.3 release, we also will need to backport a lot of them in previous releases. So on the front end, I think we only have two security fixes, and those were both scheduled for 12.3. So for those two, I think we'll keep in 12.3. I know there are a bunch of back-end issues that were moved up. We should just look at each of them and see if we still need to prioritize getting them done before any of our other stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
Did you have anything, Alex, specifically that you wanted to take a look at?
No, from my understanding was that in 12.3, the security team will not accept any new fixes, so to say, other than some critical vulnerabilities that they want to push out and release. So yeah, at least that was my understanding from the message. But if not, then we are all fine.
Okay. I'll look through this issue. John, if you want to look through it also, and we can figure out if we need to move any of the 12.3 security issues to 12.4.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. That's the last point on the agenda. Anyone else have anything else they wanted to talk about? No. Okay. Well, then enjoy the rest of your day or evening and week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.